Hello everyone, welcome. Thanks for coming. My name is Simon Rake Allen, I'm the CTO at MYOB. This is my colleague Paul. Okay. Thanks for the invitation to be here. MYOB's had a long relationship as a partner with Microsoft, and it's great to be here. And we've been embracing a number of their technologies over the years, and we're using a lot more in the future. Today I want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing with our latest push. We've got we've had a desktop product for quite some time, maybe 20 years in this industry. And let me tell you a little bit what we're doing with that. First I'll start with a bit of stats on MYOB, what we do in this market, what we do in Australia, where our products are going. We're doing a big push to move all our products into the cloud over the next few years. There is some lovely architectural problems that we are facing with all those issues, and great challenges that we're resolving. And Paul's going to talk you through some of the technologies that we're using to solve those issues and take this product into the next millennium. Firstly, what is MYOB? Software, accounting software. We've been doing it for many years. We're all very passionate about that software and about delivering value. We've got 150,000 businesses in this country who use our software. That includes 2,300 accounting practices as well. Across Australia and New Zealand, it's about a million customers and 10,000 accounting companies. So lots and lots of customers. Very diverse range of businesses that they service, markets that they play in. 25% of all of New Zealand's workforce is paid through an MYOB solution. So that's a big number. We file 2 million tax returns in this country every year. We manage 100,000 domain names across Australia and New Zealand. I think that's up to 140,000 right now. Our budget is $90 million over the next 3 years for R&D. So we're putting a lot of effort into these solutions and to bringing our products to the cloud. So what have we got today? Well, today in the industry, what most people do is just that. They've got their accounting software, and it sits on their machine in their office, right? What they really want to do, what they do today is they want to share that information with their accountant. So the way it works, the way it's worked for many years, is you drop that onto a CD, onto a memory stick, you drive it over to your accountant, right? Email now works quite well for that, so people have been emailing it in the last decade or so. And then your accountant gets it, and you're sharing the files, and it's a bit of a hassle. They make some changes, you make some changes, keeping in sync. People want to provide more value, and the accountants want to provide more value, right? They today do a lot of processing of your tax returns and your number crunching, but really what they want to do is they want to give you the value that they have studied all their lives through at university and have been practicing for in their business since the beginning of time. They want to help you make your business work better, right? And today there are challenges in doing that. What does our research say? Well, last year we spent almost $1 million on research, all right? MYOB talks a lot to our customers, find out what do they want, where they're going, what technologies do they want. Today, rich clients, we all know the benefits of a rich client, right? It's on your desktop, it's there, it's high speed, it works, it's got all your data right there, reporting is great. It's tough to deploy, a desktop product. DLL issues as developers, we all know about those. From a thin client point of view, from a web browser point of view, right? Great. Easy to deploy, probably a little bit less, harder to get the rich functionality you have on a desktop, but, different model, people want both. So the research is telling us that, 34% of Australians, 36% of New Zealanders will be happy to pay for creating a cloud-enabled desktop product. Right? That's a pretty big number. Who here knows about a cloud-enabled desktop product? Can anyone name a cloud-enabled desktop product? Those are all pure web-based cloud apps. I'm talking about a desktop app. Does anyone here use iTunes? No iTunes users. All right. Interesting. Does anyone here know Outlook? All right. Who uses Outlook? Who uses webmail? All right, so now on the spectrum of who prefers webmail versus Outlook. If you prefer Outlook, if you prefer webmail, all right, so we're definitely Outlook heavy. We like to use a desktop Outlook, right? It's great, it's powerful. Yeah, we also like the choice of using a web-based mail system. Some people prefer one, some people prefer the other. Everyone here in this room is actually probably forced into using a web-based version at some point. But when you got your choice, you'll like to use your desktop, as most of you just indicated. So what our clients are telling us is that they do want the best of both worlds, right? They want the smart client. They want the rich desktop experience, but they want it to be web-enabled. They want it to be cloud-enabled. They want the communication to be able to work with their accountant. They want to be able to share with their partners. So today it's on the desktop. What we're doing is we're moving the business logic and the data into the cloud. We're allowing the accountant to get access to that data. We're allowing you to work from home. We're allowing you to work from the road, and including and bringing into that all your trusted partners who work with you. And there are many people today who help small business and collaborate with small business and are a part of that ecosystem of helping small business, make their businesses successful. Bookkeepers and trainers and people who mine their data and decision support staff, etc. So this is the first part of our roadmap. When we start to expand this offering and we start looking at what is the ecosystem of the future. Well, most of the things on this slide today, and I'm going to start at the bottom left. Number 7 position. Most of the things we have in some, the industry today has in some kind of form, right? So banking integration, right? And payroll and superannuation and bank fees. Those are all things you can do today. That's part of the ecosystem. Bringing in payment options and PayPal and BPay and all these other various payment options and other gateways. Pure web-based accounting, so Live Accounts is a web-based product. Compliance and updating, like keeping your smart client up to date. One of the nice value adds from the thin client point of view that people want in that hybrid model, right? Not just the CD on the desktop. Employees actually a huge part of small business. We surveyed small business and asked them, what are your big pain points? How the top 12, 6 of them refer to people. How do you find, how do you keep people? How do you train your people? Like if you're a 1,000-person company, you add another person, you've added a little to your workforce. If you're a small business of 3 people and you go to hire someone, you're increasing 35%, 30% of your workforce. You're creating right now huge impact, right? And so all the services that employees of big companies today expect from their employer, small business one as well. These technologies are enabling people, companies, bringing in and offering database services to their own employees, even just timesheets, salaries, and etc. If you have a look at the whole integration with the other today, we have a solution with MYOB that allow you in your desktop software. You've got your inventory list. You want to put your inventory. You got some excess. What do you want to do? Let's go drop it on eBay. The button. Off it goes to eBay. A week later, sold. Comes back. Line item in your new desktop product is updated, right? In your general ledger. Small business find that just so easy, right? They don't much stuff spending evenings working out eBay and how to use it, etc. Right? So these integrations are very, very valuable. Biggest part of the community, though, is the development. There are people like you in this room, right? Once these APIs are available on the cloud, it starts to open up an ecosystem where developers can start adding value to small business. Where that's what the level start to mean, and that's the real value to small business starts to come in where people here add their business to that ecosystem. All right, so there's a bunch of different technologies that play into this. I'm going to hand over to Paul to tell you a little about what goes on in that world.
Thanks, Simon. G'day. So I'll talk you through the technical solution that we've put in place to essentially bridge the world for our desktop products. As Simon mentioned, used by a hell of a lot of people, taught in every TAFE, beyond. And there's a whole bunch of essentially industries that are built purely around our system. And one key thing we've found is that that continuity of user experience and that environment is the driver behind this piece. People don't want to learn an entirely new application. They're comfortable using the packages they use. They want to keep using, small business want to keep using the desktop product with the familiar look and feel they have. So what we're doing to that is essentially transforming it into a smart client so that they can work anywhere they want, either online or offline. I'll talk you through the technologies behind that. Similarly with accountants, the 10,000 accounting practices that we have using our software across Australia and New Zealand are used to using that application. But they want that application deeply integrated with all of their clients' general ledgers. Similarly, our own customer service team. If we can service our customers better, if we can get to their data, work with them in place around their application, rather than this disconnected model we have today, that's a major win. And similarly, developers. So we already have 700 developer partners on using our application, using our existing ODBC interface. We're extending that with a .NET API that'll work whether the data file is locally or in the cloud. So small businesses. The key driver behind the small business piece of this, essentially they're the ones with their data, but they can only work from the office today. So enabling them to work from the home, the road, and also more importantly whether they're online or offline is the key piece in this. So what we have today is our AccountWrite desktop application, and we've had a project going for a couple of years now to rewrite this in .NET and SQL. The architecture of the app is very layered. Essentially there is UI, an API in there, and then business logic behind that piece. We recently made a decision to change the the database in this piece to Compact as opposed to Express, which we were on previously. The problem we had was that customers didn't know what Express was. They're not used to dealing with their accounting data in a database. They're used to dealing with it like they work with Word documents. So the transferability, the portability of Compact is a great win for us in that regard. And they stopped uninstalling SQL Express, which they didn't know what it was. It's a user education process, right? There's a lot of challenges in this space too, because, I mean, on the desktop, people run local admin, which is a security nightmare for us in terms of this a new .NET SQL app. So we've done a lot in that regard, which I'll talk through in a moment. But the key piece that we're doing here is transforming the business logic, transforming that desktop app, splitting it in two essentially, and moving that business logic up to the cloud. And the only reason we can do this, well, the reasons are twofold. One is the architecture of the application. It was already written with MVVM, services layer, a domain. And so we're able to take that services layer and shift that up to the cloud. Given we're currently working with a .NET on both ends, and more importantly, we control both ends of that, we're able to do a lot of funky things in that regard with WCF. So essentially we're using the same binary serialization that's used in RIA services to transfer data between the Silverlight client and the web server. So it's a shared type. We're serializing the type information, serializing those pieces in binary, which greatly reduces the traffic we're sending down there. If you think of if you contrast the style of the calls between the desktop app and the cloud to an AJAX app, think of it as an initial get, a bunch of AJAX calls as we do a bunch of validation on background worker threads in the desktop app, and then a final post. And all that in binary data as opposed to, I mean, JSON's nice and small, right, but it's still a lot more data we're transferring. The other piece, of course, is that business logic itself in the cloud. Now here we're taking advantage of the elasticity of the cloud. And I think one key piece here, the other enabler of this is cloud technologies. We don't need to run a data center to manage this stuff. We don't need the staffing to support that. This is something that comes for free with cloud platforms. So multi-tenanting that business logic piece made a lot of sense. We could scale out at tax time, scale back at other times of the year. The database in the cloud is a little different though. We had a long debate about how to do this. If we're using traditional technologies, it makes a lot of sense to use like SQL Enterprise distributed partition views, and really create a massive, distributed partition view server. But you need a whole bunch of special hardware to run that sort of stuff. And the cloud's not like that. The cloud's commodity hardware. And what we found we'd end up doing is essentially sharding this one multi-tenant database by customer anyway. Now, we've already got the customer's data in individual pieces down on their desktop. Why go through all the effort of put it all together just to split it out again to run on the platform? It's also going to enable us to do a lot of stuff around that cloud database, such as failback. So, the cloud obviously provides a lot of redundancy around and availability, a full HA environment. So you're not going to get any sort of technical error causing data loss. But a common scenario for businesses as well, I've totally made a mess of my books, reset me back to yesterday. So a failback scenario that the user can drive on a company by company file data basis is going to be a major win as well. Now, I mentioned also working offline. And the key piece in this for us, the key technology underlying it is Sync Framework. Sync Framework had a bit of a limitation up until recently, is that you really had to be talking to a SQL endpoint, tabulated data stream. Whereas now, with the latest version, release 2 of Sync Framework, you can actually split that into a tiered mode, which obviously has a lot of benefits around security. We're not exposing any database to the cloud, any database connection across the internet. Everything's coming through our business logic, and everything's secured at that web server endpoint. And I'll talk through that in a moment. But essentially, the Sync service, leveraging Sync Framework, allows us to have a local copy and the cloud copy, keeping them in sync. Now, we are porting, even though we've been on a rewrite of this desktop app for a couple of years, the business logic, really the business processes that are encapsulated in that app aren't really geared for an offline-online scenario. So consider a business that wants sequential invoice numbers. You raise an invoice when you're offline. Sure, you can merge the data, but the logical flow of invoice numbers is broken. And there's a whole raft of other scenarios around that, particularly once you consider that essentially you've got a source document level and ledgers and journals beneath that. The knock-on effects through those pieces can be quite significant. So our strategy in the first instance is to allow only one. Consider that there is n+1 databases in this, or nodes in this network, but only one of those will be writable at a time. So if you want to work offline, say you're just on the plane, run a bunch of reports, that's fine, you can do that. But the ability then to check out a database and work on that is one thing that only one can have at a time. And that's the way that we're preventing conflicts rather than, and then we'll evolve essentially to managing conflicts, which Simon will talk about later. And this is an idea, so as Simon mentioned, we spend a lot of time with our partners, our customers. We have a biennial, at least a couple of times a year, conference with all of our partners. And these are ideas we've workshopped around the last couple of partner connects. And that idea has really resonated with our customers, essentially keeping them in the environment they're familiar with, but also allowing them to evolve to newer models of computing. And the key piece then in that is also with regard to our accountant partners. So 10,000 accounting partners across Australia and New Zealand, as Simon mentioned before, enabling them not just to work on books at tax time or take a box of receipts and do data entry, but allow them to be an active part of the business, allow them to view dashboards out of our accounting practice software, allow them to look over all their businesses, allow them to benchmark and be there day to day as opposed to a couple of times a year. So the key piece now we start thinking about this is obviously security. Who is who and what can they do? So this is where we're leveraging Windows Identity Foundation as really the key piece in this. So moving to a claims-based authentication model and leveraging essentially a token service, a security token service, to mediate between all these parties at runtime. But not only that, I mean, one great thing about Windows Identity Foundation is that it can also run on the desktop. So we have a uniform security model between the desktop piece and the cloud piece. allowing a lot better maintainability. Something that couldn't be done until something like Windows Identity Foundation existed. So essentially, yeah, a claims-based identity piece, managing that collaboration. So our customer service team are also a key party to this. If we can support them better, support them in their books, with their permission, of course, it's a lot more value add, right? And also the ability to have these products deeply integrated with our CRM and self-service portals. We recently launched a forum and have live chat and all kinds of other bits and pieces around these things. So enable us to move them to those channels and support them uniformly and also deeply is a real win. So the key piece here is also, again, an identity federation piece. So not shown there is the fact that we have a local AD, and we want to be able to leverage that so our customer service people can authenticate there and be authenticated through to identity services. So leveraging ADFS2 there to federate our customer AD, have that participate in the token service by identity services, allows us to have this single identity for our customers, a single identity for our own customer service team as well. But then managing the orchestrations, moving data in and out of our CRM, through to the collaboration pieces, etc. We're leveraging BizTalk there because I don't know if anyone's done any Siebel CRM integration. It's got web services, but they ain't pretty. So BizTalk's real. We're actually on BizTalk 2008 at the moment, but moving to 2010 to help with that. Developers. Now, we have had an ODBC piece for a long time. We have 700 development partners working on top of that. It's a bit limiting though, and as the schemas have evolved, the ODBC interface hasn't. With the latest release of the product, we are releasing a .NET API. And the key piece here is that no matter whether a customer's data is local or in the cloud, interacting with this same API is going to work. And that's the same way that our accounting division work with, integrating their accounting practice software that they manage in through to the desktop product. So essentially, by leveraging WCF behind our API, essentially a service factory model where we're either going to construct a local instance or a transparent proxy to a remote instance, that's really allowing us to hide this cloud plumbing and also the security against the cloud behind this API. So taking these things out of the hands of the developers, not putting the onus on them to do these things properly, allowing them, the same familiar .NET development paradigm they're used to against the cloud data or the local data. So I'll pass back to Simon to talk about what we've learned through this process.
Whole lot of interesting technology challenges along the way. Cloud, synchronization, online, offline. Cloud platforms without the APIs that you get, especially around for a financial package where around tax time there's definitely peak loads, so we need to ramp up the number of CPUs that we have when tax time comes around. There's about a 6-week period where there's a massive rush on everyone doing their taxes and filing their books. So cloud platforms actually are a perfect match for that kind of model. The sync framework, one of the key challenges here is people do want choice in what they do, right? They don't want just online, they want offline or online. And if you look at the range of businesses that there are in this country and in Australia, it's a diverse range. People have very different situations. A lot of people work in remote regional areas. They don't have access to great broadband. It's always on. They usually work offline during the day, and then overnight they'll connect and try to sync back their data to the server. Keep it in sync, keep it backed up, share it with their accountant. Sometimes they wake up in the morning and it's failed. I remember growing up with modems, my 300 baud modem, and doing downloads and uploads of software, and you never know what would happen the next morning when you wake up and whether that your download has made it just to download a piece of software. These guys, people have that problem today across Australia. So the sync framework has been a great enabling technology for us in terms of keeping all the databases in sync between the cloud and the desktop People in small business often are on the road. Not always have access to a modem, or not necessarily have access to have a card, or etc. So there's so many different variations in how they work. People want to get a job done in the cafe. You want to get out of the office, go to the cafe and do your books there. We're looking at the kind of people we're looking at here. Looking at mainstream businesses. We're looking at hairdressers and plumbers and gardeners. These people work hard during the day, and they work hard getting their stuff done, and then they get home and they feed their kids, and then got to do my books. I hate computers. Last thing they want to do is now spend 2 hours in the evening, doing paperwork, right? So these models have to fit all those different solutions. Like I said, 34% of people want this thing to work offline and have a desktop which can speak to their accountant and can speak to their bookkeeper. Spoken to many customers who have a family member helping them out at home while they're at work. Maybe a wife is working at home doing bookkeeping in parallel. So just enabling that is another challenge. If you look at the spectrum as well of things that you can do in a small business, there's maybe 1,000 different activities. All right, let's just say 1,000 activities, right? So out of those, which ones conflict? Now, Paul hinted to an issue about sequential invoice numbers. That's one of many of the problems that you face if you do want sequential and you want to work offline. You've got a problem there. And as software engineers, who's a developer in this room? So many of you, source control management, conflict resolution is not an issue for us, right? When we all just keep checking in. You do your local work, and when you finish your software, you check it in. And if there's a conflict, you get a diff and you can resolve it, right? People in small business and accountants, they can't resolve diffs, right? So avoiding that situation for them is absolutely paramount. So allowing certain kinds of activities, not allowing other activities. Some can be done offline, some can be done in other situations, etc. So that's all been a lovely part of this journey that we've gone on. In terms of security, right? We're talking about financial data here. Security is paramount. So as Paul talked about, we've got a lovely architecture there around using Identity Foundation. It is integrated with WCF, which is great. So it speaks web services locally, can speak to the cloud. That stuff built into the platform is a lovely feature to have. Where are we going with all this stuff? You saw the future roadmap. That's we're building that out now today. Many of those pieces of the puzzle we have in various guises. We've actually got 20,000 New Zealand businesses today using our various online services we have. We've had them since 2001. We've got our empowered services, which are integration to banking and superannuation and tax. Enlarging that footprint of online services, engaging with mobile and web, getting the seamless online, offline world. That is a real journey. We're starting off with some simple models, as Paul mentioned. We're starting off with a conflict avoidance, allowing a few things to be done in different modes, and we'll be extending that to what can be done and how it can be done offline more and more over the next year or so. Really, the key here, I think, is the richness of the APIs. We're building up this beautiful web-based API that we are going to expose to developers in the cloud. That's been, we already have, as Paul mentioned, 700 development partners who already today make a living by writing add-ons and integrating other products into the desktop software we have today on a million desktops. So publish and subscribe. There's a model out there which says, if I've got, let's say, in my business, I've got some assets, I've got some property, I want to sell a property, right? If I just indicate in my software that I want to sell a property, well, a real estate agent should be notified. Bless you. Real estate agents should be notified, right? In fact, they should bid for the business, right? So I should indicate that I've got a property to sell, and I should get a couple of bidders there, and I can start choosing between who's offering me the best deal. My bank manager should also be notified, right? So using message distribution and publish-subscribe architectures and technologies as well for informing those who need to know about business events that are occurring within your business. So a pull-push model rather than you having to go out as a small business and find people and find partners. They should be a part of that network. Once that platform is there and it's rich, that becomes an accounting platform in the cloud with a foundation of base services integrated, and it really opens up the door for what developers can start doing and what they can start building. And I'm excited to see what happens on that platform, because there's been great ideas coming through already from the developer community about what they want to do and how they want to provide add-on solutions for their customers in their segment, right? On top of a foundation of accounting practice and accounting law and tax tables and everything, kind of all the hard stuff done for you. And with that, I'd like to thank you guys. What I'd like to do is open the floor to questions. I'm happy to take questions from the floor. Yes, sir.
So you went over how you're syncing your data. What about desktop software? How are you going to updates and so on?
Yeah,
the question is, how are you going to update the desktop software?
Yeah, so we already have FlexNet in place, which pushes out updates to customers. In terms of now rolling out updates to this cloud-enabled piece, it's no different to rolling out a web upgrade, right? You got a web tier, you got an app tier, you got a database tier. Same pieces, right? You've got a desktop piece, web server, database piece. The only difference is the time it takes to roll this out. What is really an advantage of this piece is that we can stage that upgrade. So we'll run a number of web farms, one on version N-1. And as people upgrade their desktop clients and choose to upgrade their databases, they'll move on to the next version. So it'll be licensed around a subscription model where you'll always get access to the latest, but you can choose when you move.
Yes. Yes, sir.
How are you managing PCI compliance?
Yes, okay.
The question is PCI compliance. How are we managing it?
Yeah. So today we don't have any. We've actually removed all credit card numbers from the database. Now, in terms of integration through to banks, which we do a lot of at the moment, there were stats on, I think, how much money that flows through, a couple of million a day through our empowered services offering. That's actually managed through a separate piece that actually still resides on their desktop piece. So that's fully tested, fully compliant, but that piece isn't actually in the cloud, that's on the desktop infrastructure, therefore the onus of the business owner to secure that. In terms of future roadmap, one thing that's been considered strongly is putting our retail piece on top of this. So imagine now your warehouse, your back office, your accountant, and all your retail stores, your web stores, all integrated through this one platform. PCI compliance then does become a bit of an issue because you're probably going to maintain some credit card data. We've actually talked a lot with a couple of cloud providers around what they're doing in this space, and nothing's actually been announced by any cloud provider yet, but I'm sure you'll hear some stuff around that in the future.
Look, there are partners and people who specialise in PCI compliance and managing the whole credit card piece. We're hoping to offer choice to people around what they can do, where they want to store, how they want to store their credit cards. So it's certainly a great question and a good challenge.
I think just further on that, Rocky Heckman, if you don't know him, you should know him, did a session yesterday, I think he may have another one today, where PCI non-compliance of cloud is a bit of a furphy. So if you actually look deeper into that, or you went to his talk, there's a bit more that I'd suggest download the slides if you're interested in PCI compliance of the cloud.
Are you guys using a public cloud like Azure or somebody services, or are you doing a private cloud?
We are not quite ready to talk about which cloud platform we'll be working on. I can say we are looking at a broad range of cloud offerings, and there are great vendors out there with really rich, really great technologies, and we're looking at a number of them. More questions? Yes, sir.
How are you managing security?
So, okay, that's actually a good point. Now, I can't probably say too much, but consider that we are implementing a form of second factor. So you can't just take the username and password and go. A common scenario there is accounting practices. So an accountant leaves one practice and goes to another. Now he's got all the logins for various company files. Now previously that actually had a layer of physical security because those were stored in a file server in their office. Now those are in the cloud, the physical security is reduced. Hence, I can't talk too much, but we are introducing an element of second factor into that. So there is still... Well, there still will be something they have to make up for the lack of physical security of the cloud.
Identity federation, who controls the identities? Does the customer control who gets access to their data?
Absolutely, absolutely, no question. Yeah, so the question was who controls access to the data? The answer is the small business. Well, it's actually the owner of the company file. Consider that an accountant in this model may simply receive a shoebox from their customer. Well, I mean, this is what happens, right? So in that scenario, the customer may never own their data. That may always be owned by the accountant. Alternatively, the accountant may set them up and then transfer ownership of that file back to the customer. But it's whoever's the owner that has control over who can and can't get to data. And I mean, the extension of the question was around MYOB's customer service. The same applies. We can't get in there unless you invite us to collaborate with you on your data. Same way an accountant can't get in there unless you invite them to collaborate. Yeah, so there's two pieces, and I didn't really talk too much about the collaboration piece. The identity piece is really authentication, but there's a whole bunch of stuff around authorization, which is the collaboration, who can do what, with what, where it is, where they can access it from, yada yada.
How do you handle data sovereignty issues, and what is your data stored, like in New Zealand or Australia?
So the question is around data sovereignty. There are, again, referencing back Rocky's talk, and again, if you don't know him, you should. There are actually no data sovereignty laws in Australia or New Zealand. As far as I know, I'm not a lawyer. I obviously have to preface it with that. But I certainly have studied the Australian Privacy Act a few times, and the privacy principles in there, national privacy principles, don't actually say anything about data sovereignty. There are other things, such as the Patriot Act in the US, where if you store something on US soil, they have access to it. So those are separate sort of issues to data sovereignty, but kind of way into this. As Simon mentioned, we can't really talk about yet who we are using in terms of cloud provider, but rest assured, data sovereignty isn't really an issue.
What customers have said as well in our research is that they do want choice, right? Data costs different amounts to store in different places, and you've got different latencies and all that kind of stuff. So, over time, we'll be offering more and more choices to where and how your data is stored, especially things around backup. There's no such thing as one backup solution fits all, right? Some people have a business where they require their backups to be in separate sites, one to be onshore, one to be offshore. Backups need to be snapshotted at every single time you view data. Some people need a snapshot of that and need to be able to recall it. Some people need rollback, as Paul alluded to earlier. So, the integration of a variety of backup partners to offer various services and different sovereignty solutions around that is something we'll be offering and evolving to. Yes.
You mentioned SQL Compact, and you also mentioned cloud databases, pretty much in adjacent sentences. Which one are you using? Are you using both at the same time? And if I'm a developer writing that, and which one am I looking to hook into?
Okay, so the questions around, we mentioned Compact, we also mentioned cloud databases, and as a developer, what is the development experience around that? The development experience is uniform. We do not allow direct access to our database. I don't think any app vendor would really want that. Everything is controlled through an API. And even in the context of the ODBC driver we provide, that actually goes through our code. That doesn't hit the database directly. And that ties in with all aspects of security, whether that be component security, network security, or application security, like who's logged in, who are you logging in and using the ODBC interface with.
So the answer is really the customer has a choice of which data model they use.
So
they can keep it in the cloud, or they can keep it locally. It's up to them. As a developer, I just talk through your API, I've got no idea where it's coming from. Yeah,
you shouldn't really need to know, I guess. Yeah. So the extension there was that as a developer, I don't know, the customer chooses, and that's essentially the paradigm we are trying to create. So consider that you could be working locally against a local database, you could be working in the cloud and not have a local database at all ever, or you could have one that syncs between the local one and the cloud, allowing you to work offline or online. Now, no matter what, you know, as a developer, you don't want to know about all these different things, and if this is the case, work here, if that's the case, work there, hence abstracting all this away behind the API or the ADBC driver, such that where you're working and what state that's in is transparent to you.
Yeah, more questions? All right, and with that we're done. Thank you very much.